Let's get over to, I always forget, Orange Bowl. Oregon, Texas Tech. This is the noon Eastern game on New Year's Day. Of course, Oregon crushed JMU to get here, and Texas Tech had the first round bye as Big 12 champions for the first time. This is the game or the individual matchup that I've been most excited about as soon as we saw the bracket and assumed that Oregon would be able to beat JMU, which they were. It is this Oregon offense, especially this offensive line against Texas Tech's defensive front. That's where the money went. That's where the consensus All-Americans, the David Baileys, Jacob Rodriguez, is the pressure that they get, their success against the run. All of that for Texas Tech has been such a huge part of how they got here. The defense. Oregon's offense, they've been banged up, but it's super creative. It's super explosive. But they run it. They can do all the things because they have had an offensive line that for the last couple of years has been finalists for the Joe Moore Award.
Yes.
And they've got Dante Moore playing his best football now. So you've got strength on strength, which I love. I love it. I want to be between that rock and a hard place here. And I know, probably talk about the off matchups as the ones that'll probably decide the game, et cetera, but I'm just so excited to see strength on strength from both of these teams, the powerhouses that powered them to get to this point against the best of the other team as well.
It's a single most intriguing matchup to me out of any of these games, like the game within the game between the Oregon offensive line, Texas Tech defensive line. I said this, I started to formulate this, and the closer I've gotten, and it's the thing that we're lamenting about, the lack of crossover. The more I watch Texas Tech in their defensive line, and I watch the guys that they're going against in the Big 12, I don't look at a bunch of offensive linemen that they're beating, they're rushing against, that they're stopping, holding up in the run game, and say, oh, that guy's going to play on Sundays and be an impact player, right? Utah had a couple of them. And that was a game for Tech where they weren't able to really pressure the quarterback. I think they got home one time and it was more of a cleanup sack type of situation. And when you're going up against Oregon, who, as you mentioned, Joe Moore Award finalists the last couple of years, their offensive line has played really well. I'm curious if there is some sort of adjustment period that they have to go through to be like, okay, like these are the guys, right? Like we have to get comfortable with the resistance we're going to feel from that.
It's funny that you bring this up for matchups between Big Ten teams and the ACC and the Big 12, because we talked about this in Miami and Ohio State too. It's like you can physically dominate a lot of teams in those conferences. Like this was Texas Tech's strategy, was to beef up the defensive front and think that against most teams, you'll just be able to beat them, right? Line them up and you'll be able to beat them. You're more talented, more athletic, faster, stronger. And now we see if that works, right? Against the best of the best. And this is where like scheme and all of the other stuff come into play, which I think is going to be really, really interesting in this game. So I can't wait for that particular matchup. A couple of notes on injuries. We haven't gotten the full injury reports yet because we're not close enough to the actual game time, but Ja'Cory Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. were both back against JMU. They didn't do much. Gary Bryant Jr. didn't have any catches. Ja'Cory Moore had one. But again, like you're starting to get your weapons back and a little healthier. Evan Stewart has been close to returning, which would also be huge for them. He was the top returning pass catcher from last year, but got injured in the summer. That would be huge as well, because he had a great first year after transferring from A&M. Couple other just notes that are worth pointing out. Both of Oregon's coordinators got head coaching jobs at Cal and Kentucky. So they've been pulling double duty. Again, this is the time of year where you can do that a little bit easier. You got a lot of time. You can make your phone calls, you can hire your staff and still prepare for the game. But that's something to keep in mind. Whereas the other side for Texas Tech, you have coordinators that signed extensions, celebrated, the GM did too, everybody did, through the length of Joey McGuire's contract. Like they're all in to try to do this year in and year out together. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the stat that I love the most about this defense for Texas Tech, they're the only team in the country to allow less than 1,000 rushing yards on the season, but they're also the only team to allow under 900 rushing yards. Like they have been so good against the run. They lead the nation in takeaways with 31, 39 sacks on the year, tied for 6th in the country. Like it's going to be so much fun because again, they have been so good at it. They're so confident in doing what they do, and what they do with the pressure sets up, again, a lot of those takeaways, forcing
No
them,
doubt.
forcing passes, but also just punching the ball out. They're able to do a lot of different things. So that's what I want to see, if they're able to actually dictate the game in some capacity, or if Oregon is able to just kind of neutralize it with that offensive line, if they are healthier in the receiving core. Are they able to get those big explosive plays and pull away? Like, do we think Baron Morton can come back in a game? Like, if they're down big, like there's just a lot of twists and turns and matchup things that are super interesting about this game.
No, I'm totally there with you. Like I think that again, their defense has been phenomenal all year long, and the turnovers becomes a bit of a thing because Dante Moore, for as good as he is, like he'll throw it to you every once in a while. So if that becomes a factor in this game, you certainly start to like the edge for Texas Tech. But it feels like Oregon has seen a defense this year, or maybe two, that can really give you trouble. And this Oregon offense is, I'm not going to say it's one of a kind, but they're operating on a different level. I wanted to ask you this question. I went back and I watched the first round game, and we know JMU put up a ton of yards. We know that they started to score some points late in that game. And the common refrain on social media was, oh, Oregon had all their backups in by that time. And I'm watching some of these explosives, and I'm like, oh, man, that's Bear Alexander on the field. I'm like, oh, there's Mateo Uyunglele. I'm like, there's Tuioti. I'm like, Dylan Thieneman, the All-Americans back there missing tackles. Is there a concern about Oregon's defense, or was this just one of those games where, like, it's easy to not be locked in when you have such a big lead coming out of the half?
I think it's a mix of both, but there's definitely like a little bit of a red flag there, right? Like there's something that you're flagging going, that didn't look right. That didn't feel right. So that's absolutely a concern. And I think Oregon fans were split on whether or not they were worried about it, right? Like,
yeah.
Because again, and then, you had all the backdoor cover. And so there was just like a whole lot happening there at the end of the game. And just some big plays. I mean, even early in the game, like when JMU was doing, like,
they drove down twice.
A great
early.
game. Yeah. They just marched down the field. So yeah, I think like there's a healthy level of, like, maybe not a red flag, but like a yellow flag waving there about the defense and the way that game ended.